Hi, I'm Eric Segal, Director of Education here at the museum, and I want to take you into Tempus Fugit, Time Flies. This is an exhibition of Japanese art with themes that evoke the passage of time. I thought we'd look at it together and think about a couple of issues presented here. Of course, many of the works such as Tray with Birds and Cherry Blossoms, not only depicts nature, but evokes the springtime, right? May, when the cherry blossoms tend to explode on the branches of trees. This is a perfect image of spring, a pair of birds courting each other, perhaps. To emphasize that same theme, again with birds, here is an image. This is from the early 20th century, late 19th century. It's called Thrush on Snowy Branch. It's a hanging scroll painting. And you can see snow gathered here after perhaps an overnight fall. There's a lot of awkward reflections in this gallery. I apologize. And despite the sort of dead of winter, snowy landscape, this bird looks around sort of with its puffy little head and perhaps a bit lonely, looks for another one of its kind to connect with. So images of seasons certainly embody ideas about time. They don't all have to be about birds, but here are pigeons on Wisteria branch. And again, the idea of time is temporal. So time can be seasonal, but also artists are interested in times of day. So this is another hanging scroll, an unusually wide one. I'll step back for a moment. You can see the theme is chickens resting in the shade of a nashi pear trellis. The trellis is formed by vertical and horizontal gray bamboo elements tied together, and the tree rooted here in the ground is rising up, and then it's trained across the trellis. Beneath it, in its shade, lie a bunch of chickens in various modes, some in sleep mode, others a bit more attentive as the white chicken. And it tells us something about the time of day here, right? They're in the shade, so it's clearly midday when it's quite warm. The chickens have grown a bit drowsy and are cooling off in the hottest time of the day. So another moment in thinking about time has to do with, in addition to seasons, simply the times of the day. This unusual work, a skeleton, from perhaps the early 20th century, maybe a few decades into the 20th century, is fashioned out of a natural curved piece of wood, which the artist, within that wood discovered the form of a skeleton and carved it out to accentuate that form. Skeletons, of course, obviously associated with death, and the idea that human life is fragile, fleeting, and indeed a moment in time. I think we should also take a look at this bodhisattva, carved in the middle to late 18th century in Japan, made from wood and then gilt, that is, treated with a gold surface, some of which still remains. And we'll walk around. We can see that the back was meant to be against a wall or a pillar, perhaps, and not to be viewed. It's not finished in the back. But from the other three sides, there's a lot to see, right? A lotus pad supported on a elegant base with geometric flanges, very plant-like, and then rock-like structures supporting that. All of this on a formal plinth. Atop this lotus, this opening lotus, is a bodhisattva with 2, 4, 6, 8 arms, and a face that otherwise is serene and peaceful, eyes closed or cast down. An object as small and simple as this incense, kogo, an incense container, relates again to ideas about time because, of course, in burning incense, you select incense that's appropriate for different seasons, different ceremonies, tea ceremonies, for instance, the scents varying whether it's a winter or a summer scene. Right? Just as we tend to think of eating hearty foods or hot soups in the winter, that makes sense. Different scents are appropriate for different seasons. Thank you for joining me for this brief tour of Tempus Fugit. I hope that you find themes here in this museum that connect to issues you're dealing with in your class. And I hope that you'll come and visit the museum when you're back on campus and when we reopen to the public.